At a rally on Thursday, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis responded to President Joe Biden's visit to the Sunshine State. The president came to Florida on Wednesday to campaign for DeSantis' challenger, Charlie Crist, and to boost Democratic hopes in the midterms. DeSantis mocked the trip, calling it an in-kind contribution to his own campaign. The Florida governor is widely expected to win re-election. He consistently outpolls Crist by double digits and has become a national figure and a major antagonist to the Biden administration.
We had a visitor to our state yesterday. And the only reason I know that is because there was a big silver alert put out for the whole country. So they wheel out old Joe to come down to Florida, and I just want to be able to say I am absolutely including that as an in-kind contribution to my campaign. I have to. Because they're reminding everybody in the state of Florida that the Democrats in this state stand with Biden 100% of the time. The Bidenflation that we see. You know, when I became governor in 2019, we didn't have Bidenflation. We didn't have it in 2020. It wasn't until they got in there and cranked the printing presses, borrowed too much money, printed too much money, that inflation has now gone through the roof, and we're now at a 40-year high, and that is on them. They have done that, and they have inflicted those price increases on each and every, not just Floridian, but everyone throughout the United States. Not only that, they have waged war against our own domestic energy production. I mean, we were functionally energy independent when he took office. He decided to crimp and tried to destroy that. And I guess he thinks that you can run an advanced economy on windmills. I don't think so. I don't think that works. And I can tell you this, when we had Hurricane Ian came through, we had 42,000 linemen pre-staged, ready to go. And as soon as that storm went, you know, they descended on these power lines. We had millions of people without power, and you had the quickest power restoration in recorded hurricane history that was done. But, you know, that is not being done with windmills and solar, unfortunately. It is being done with things like oil and gas. That's just the reality, and that's what we need. And, you know, so we were proud to be able to work to do that. But you do not want to be in a situation where you have some storm like that and you don't have the ability, you know, your gas tank, you control your own destiny. You have the gas, you put it in, you do what you got to do. You know, some of this other stuff that relies on the power, the renewable and stuff, it's a complement. It is not a substitute. And that's what he doesn't understand. He's trying to kneecap our energy production, and he's thinking that if he does that enough, we'll have to just use more windmills or use these other things. That's not how it works. All that means is you pay more. So they're now in a situation where they're begging Maduro for oil. They're begging the Saudis for oil. And of course the Saudis aren't going to do. The Saudis cut production. Why? Because they don't like Biden. Yeah, Biden is playing footsie with the Iranians. That's the Saudis' arch enemy. They do not respect him. And so of course they're doing this to damage his political standing. But here's the thing. He has put himself and our country in this position of vulnerability with his bad policies. We need energy independence in the United States of America, and we need it now. But they all support the Biden energy policy. They all support the Inflation Reduction Act, which didn't reduce inflation, it added 87,000 new IRS agents to our country. And they're not going after the limousine liberals with those IRS agents. They're going after you. That's who they're going to go after. They want to go after Americans that don't have a fleet of attorneys on standby or a fleet of accountants. They want to go after small business people, sole proprietors, handyman, Uber drivers, all these different things. That's what they think of you. First of all, how insulting is it for them to name this bill the Inflation Reduction Act. That's just showing they have no respect for your intelligence to do that. We know it's not going to reduce inflation, but those IRS agents, I think every member of Congress that voted for that bill should be required to be audited by the IRS every year. And as bad as it was, we have the opportunity to fight back. So if we all come out and do our part on November 8th, yes, you can re-elect me, you can elect a lot of good people, but we will be able, once and for all, to retire Nancy Pelosi. Only took 40 years. You know, the fact that someone's serving 30, 40 years, we really in this country need term limits for members of Congress. And I just think, like, okay, 87,000 IRS agents, why don't we do 87,000 Border Patrol agents? That's where we need the help. But they don't care about the border. They don't want to talk about it. You have millions and millions of people come across illegally from all over the world. I had people there last year from our state help in Texas. There were people from Libya, people from Africa, China, all these places coming across our open southern border. They don't care about that. They don't care about the massive amounts of fentanyl that are pouring into this country, and that is causing families to lose loved ones in communities all across our country, not just on the southern border, and these are record numbers of fentanyl deaths. They don't care about that. They don't care about the fact that the cartels are making billions and billions of dollars, and they're absolutely eating our lunch at the border. They don't care that there's criminal aliens coming across the border victimizing Americans. We had a sheriff's deputy in Pinellas County killed by a twice deported illegal alien that came across Biden's border 6 months ago. That's wrong. But they don't care about that. They only care when you have aliens in D.C., New York, and Martha's Vineyard. Then they get really upset about it. And you know, like, I think the border should be secured. We shouldn't like this, but if you're letting in, then sanctuary jurisdiction should have to take. That should be the policy. We're not a sanctuary state. I have enough issues. I got all these refugees from blue states coming down here. I mean, come on. So send to sanctuary. And Martha's Vineyard said they were a sanctuary jurisdiction. They had a social services office there that said all are welcome, nobody's illegal, all this other stuff. But then when 50 come, you know, you have thousands in these small Texas border towns overrunning the town. They don't care. 50 in their precious little enclave. And what did they do? Did they accept them and be a sanctuary? No. They declared a state of emergency and deported them the next day. So the elites in our country, they want to impose policies on all of us, but they themselves do not want to live under the consequences of the policies they impose on the rest of us. And that showed that very, very obviously. But I will say this, I think, do we have Congress people here? Is there any Congress? Who's here? Who's here? Anybody in Congress? Laurel Lee running for Congress, going to be elected Congress. I don't think anybody else. So I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Republicans are going to win both the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate. It's going to happen. Now, that's good, don't get me wrong, and that will stop Biden from being able to do more legislation like the Inflation Reduction Act. But it's not enough just to not let Biden get his way. We need to have them advance our priorities with these new majorities. And I think they need to take a stand. I think they need to use all the powers at their disposal to stand for a secure border. They need to insist on reinstituting Remain in Mexico. They need to make sure the border wall continues to be built, and any other measure that will solve this problem, because this is a problem that Biden has created. So I hope that Republicans that get your vote and go to Washington are going to be willing to stand up there and be strong on these key issues. Because when I've seen in the past, a lot of times they will